There's also a what could become a pretty intense game of Balderdash going on in the other room. So
No, fair enough.
it will be long periods of silence followed by extreme
Scream.
outbursts.
Well, I made my roommate go to bed at 8:30. That's where we're at.
Nice job.
We talked a long time about where I could record and she could be, and she was just like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go to bed." So that's where we're at. She won't be loud. She'll be annoyed by us. It'll be fun.
So standard operating.
Standard operating.
Yeah, so just prepare to.
It'll be great.
It'll be perfect.
Y'all motherfuckers don't watch us play throughout the year, to tell you the truth. I'm gonna be real with you, and I don't care if I get fined.
That train is off the track.
I feel like you can't just like jump through Neptune and be okay.
Just prepare to.
What the show needs is more dogs and bears and chickens and stuff.
Yeah, so just prepare to be awash in unbelievable goodness.
Welcome, Pacers fans. You're listening to the Undebeatables, your semi-weekly Pacers podcast. Today is July 5th, 2022, and this is episode 598. Coming to you from the home of Catherine Lee Bates, author of America the Beautiful, Falmouth, Massachusetts. I'm the doctor, Jason Triplett.
Wow.
That's right. This show, we're going to discuss massive changes to the Pacers roster and other big trades and free agent signings around the NBA. Joining me to do all of this are two of our analysts, coast to coast like buttered toast. First, from Asheville, North Carolina, he's our in-house bartender mixing up the drinks and the crappy jingles. It's John Colson.
What is up, Pacer Nation? What's up, Undebeatables? There was a sense that we needed to do some shows based on trades and based on, the draft and everything that's going on. And I kept saying, gotta wait until we see what happens with TJ Warren. There's no reason to record a pod until I know what's going on with TJ effing Warren. So my boys waited, and here we are.
Here we are.
Or as the editor at CBS Sports might like you to think, O'Shea Brissett, based on the picture associated with the article.
Nice.
And also joining us from Boise, Idaho, out west, it's our enforcer, John Harper.
What is going on, fellas? Shout out to friend of the show, Greg Clark had a birthday last week.
Shout out.
Shout out. Happy birthday.
Buzz, fool suckers.
Fool suckers.
And I would like to shout out Aunt Beth, who I traveled all the way. We're on family vacation out here, and put the wrong charger in my bag. And it was a near cataclysmic situation, but then Beth had a charger. So we're good to go.
Shout
now
out
you get to
Aunt
hear
Beth.
my nonsense. Yeah. Before we start the show, just want to remind you folks that this show is brought to you by you. You can head over to patreon.com/undebeatables to support the longest running Pacers podcast for as little as $1 a month. And there are higher tiers as well, $5 and $10, which come with little bonus gifts like koozies or access to our Slack channels.
Or new T-shirts that are going to happen
New
soon.
T-shirts, potentially, that we keep teasing.
Also, Aunt Beth doesn't work for free.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. We got to grease the wheel somehow. Yeah. All right. Well, obviously, Pacer Nation was rudely awakened, I guess, with a trade a few days ago involving one Malcolm Brogdon. And we are just now getting around to coordinating our schedule so that we can talk about it. So let me set the table by setting up the trade, and we can talk about that, and then we can talk about the other Pacers free agent moves over the last couple days. Okay, so the crux of the trade is the Pacers gave up Malcolm Brogdon, and I think that's the only asset the Pacers gave up for a slew of Celtics players and a 2023 first-round draft pick. Those players from the Celtics are Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, Nick Stauskas, Malik Fitz, and Juwan Morgan. So, yeah, those guys.
I've heard of some of those guys.
Heard of
Theis is like the only guy that
guys?
plays regular NBA minutes. Nesmith is maybe an exciting prospect. He was a early first-round draft pick by the Celtics in 2020, so 3 years ago now. 2 years ago. All right, Colson, I know this shook you to your core. You're a huge Brogdon supporter. You had seen the future of Brogdon as a premier two-guard alongside Halliburton. How are you feeling right now?
That's unfair. I
appreciate your pushback.
I have been saying that basically the moment we drafted Halliburton, that I was concerned, or not drafted, the moment we traded for Halliburton, I was concerned about the fit with Malcolm Brogdon. We got, 5 or 6 games, maybe even 10 of them playing together, and their paces are just different. It just doesn't quite seem to make sense. Malcolm Brogdon wants to be a point guard. We're turning this entire team over to Halliburton as our starting point guard of the future. And I think I've said, I just need to trade this player. I don't care what we have to do. In fact, I was willing to give away assets, including draft picks, to move Malcolm Brogdon's $20 million, $22 million a year contract. The fact that we did this trade, and it's not a huge haul, I must say. We traded with Boston. We got Daniel Tice, which you mentioned. He's a big man. Last year he put up 8 points, 5 rebounds, 60% from the floor in 20 minutes. He's on the books for another 2 years at $9 million a year. He's a rotation player.
Yeah.
This Aaron Nesmith player, he's 22 years old. He's 6'5". There's a chance he could become a two guard in this league, maybe a small 3. And then Stauskas is an expiring deal, and I've never heard of Fitz or Morgan. These guys are getting in there to match the numbers. But we also got a first-round draft pick out of this. And I got to say, I think the internet is saying that we got fleeced, but I honestly was willing to do anything to get rid of Malcolm Brogdon, and this feels like we got a rotation player, a guy with the potential upside, and a first-round draft pick, and an expiring contract. We got cap space. This feels like a pretty good deal to me. How do you guys feel? Harper, how do you feel about this?
I mean, I'm fine with it. If you're on the Boston Celtics bench, you could be a rotation player for us. The combination of Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens, picking off, their throw-offs is better than most teams. I mean, that draft pick is going to be 30 or 31 most likely, because that's how complete this team is. And they got better. But, whatever. We got a couple maybes. We got a draft pick. We moved the salary for a guy who just unfortunately didn't fit, right? I mean, I think it's a good trade for both teams. I'm certainly not mad about it. I do think that the depth, we love centers so much. You just can't have too many centers.
You're not sure about Daniel Tice? You're not sure that
I like Tice. He's a rotation guy, right? But, I feel like we're in the same situation that we always are, which is where do we find minutes for all our bigs?
Miles Turner, Isaiah Jackson, Goga.
Yeah. So the
Jalen
question mark is there going to be another move amongst our bigs? That remains to be seen, I suppose. But yeah, no, I'm fine with the trade, and awesome for Malcolm Brogdon to land in such a successful franchise. Good for him.
Sure, yeah. And to throw another big in there, the Pacers re-signed Jalen Smith.
Yes.
For 2 years, $9.6 million.
Woo!
Okay, hold those
no,
thoughts,
okay.
and we'll get to that in a second.
No, stop it! This is amazing. Okay,
Hold on. Can I get my thoughts on the Brogdon trade first?
I'll hold
Veto.
it. I'll hold it. All
right, cool. So first, I agree with you guys. I mean that, lots of places, people that are grading these trades are giving the Celtics an A+ and the Pacers a C-. But I was not too upset with, I think my feelings Brogdon were made very clear last year. So I was willing to trade him for a bag of chips, and we ended up getting, a tuna fish sandwich and a bag of chips and a small Coke.
And a pickle.
And I'm like, all right, cool. This is great. This
and
is
a big
lunch.
pickle.
And a future candy to be named later or whatever. So I'm cool with it. And then to give you an idea of, I'm here in Boston, or, near Boston, I guess. And so I talked to my brother-in-law, Doug, and nephew, Sam. And Doug was like, why do we need more guards? And I don't understand this. And Sam, I think presciently said, well, yeah, if he doesn't get injured and he plays really well, then this was a good trade for the Celtics. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point, buddy.
Yeah, excellent point. So I've got a friend out here in Asheville who's a Boston fan, and he was very excited. He was like, look, this guy, he's super efficient, and he doesn't make mistakes, and he's a great perimeter defender, and this is the missing piece. Well, no, this is what he told me, and I said, okay, by the way, I just watched him get blown by for 3 years by anybody on the perimeter. He's a decent defender in the post or on bigger, broader guys because he's well built and he's a solid. He understands where to be, but he gets blown by quicker guys. And if he's your seventh man, like he was with Milwaukee, he could be useful. But don't look at him like he's the savior. And I think that when people look at the numbers, which he's almost a 50, 40, 90 guy, they think that they have like the best thing since sliced bread. I think we as Pacer fans know that that's not quite the case. So I want to temper Boston fans, hopes here a little bit. He's a good player. I liked him.
Yeah, well, I think what he does for them and what people are very excited about is he's another playmaker. We saw in the playoffs that they struggled when Tatum and Brown were off of the floor. They couldn't. I mean, their offense would go into the toilet even with them on the floor. And so this is another guy that can create his own shot.
And get to the basket. He's an efficient shooter.
Sure, he can find an open guy or whatever every now and then. Like, I think he does help them out a fair amount. The biggest concern with Brogdon, as it has always been with me, is he's never on the floor.
Never healthy, right.
Yeah, he plays 60-ish games a year.
No, he's going to play 50. I mean, that's what he is averaging on his career at this point.
And you better hope that he's healthy in the playoffs, and there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. Right?
If his injury happens early in the season and he's healthy for the playoffs, and there's a guy that can handle the ball, get to the basket, and you're not totally depending on him to be an elite defender, because he won't be, despite his resume. But he can hit free throws down the stretch. I mean, there are things that could happen in a playoff series where he's useful. I always liked Malcolm Brogdon. He's a winning player, but he was not good for our team. He just wasn't. I'm going to look back on this cup of coffee with him and not be that fond of it, honestly. We gave him an opportunity to be the leader of this team. He didn't do it. We gave him the opportunity to be the defender of this team. He didn't do it. I'm happy that we got what we got for this guy. So, sorry.
I mean, for the Celtics, though, Malcolm Brogdon's a bench player for them, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to guard the quick guys.
He's an eighth man.
Yeah, he's a much, much better fit there. And they're not going to have to play him 30 minutes a night during the regular season. So there's good to think that he will be in a position to be healthy for the playoffs. I think they can get more games and
Okay.
less minutes.
Okay.
Right?
Because you don't have to
Potentially,
play
yeah.
him 40 minutes a night like the Pacers.
Absolutely, right? And he's going to be guarding less
Fair enough.
talented guys
Right.
in a half-court, defense because they are great at ball stopping out there. I think it's a really good fit for them. And, it makes this team that a little more top-heavy. There's a little more talent at the top by, moving out some of the guys at the bottom 7 of that roster. So, ultimately,
Yeah, but they also picked up Gallinari. Like they really
They've
did a
done
nice
well.
job this.
They've done well.
This offseason. And I don't think they lost anybody that was important to them. I mean, Daniel Tice played some minutes for them in the playoffs, but that's it, right?
Not much though.
Yeah, and Naismith couldn't even see the floor. Like, I mean, this is a great trade for them if Brogdon can stay healthy, and can relieve the rest of those guys like a Marcus Smart or a Brown for even 10 minutes a night. It's great for them. I see why they're getting an A+, but I don't think that when you look at if you haven't been a Pacer fan and you haven't watched the games that we've watched, I think people are looking at the numbers and being like, this guy's elite. He's just
Right.
not.
I mean,
he's just
the
not.
Celtics know that.
Look,
Their
right.
fans
Okay,
know that.
but not all.
But he's-
The
he's
fans
not,
don't.
like-
The fans don't.
yeah. Well, and Vegas apparently doesn't either. Like, I think I read some article that now, I don't know if now still, but right after the trade, Boston jumped to the odds-on favorite to win the title or whatever next year. I don't think that Malcolm Brogdon's that guy that
Right.
makes you the odds-on favorite. Like, in an Eastern Conference that has a Milwaukee Bucks team that's going to be regenerated.
Yeah. Watch out for the Hawks, too. Yeesh.
Yep.
That's way too much on Malcolm Brogdon. Jalen Smith.
Yeah, Colson. Yeah, I cock blocked you there. Get your Jalen Smith on. What are you?
Okay, so
how are you feeling about this?
Well, no, I mean, so we spent, I think 3 or 4 pods talking about how Jalen Smith was this revelation. He played so well for us. He was averaging, I don't know, I'm just going to throw numbers out there, but like a 13-7, super athletic. He could shoot threes. He seemed like he's like 22. We picked him up for nothing, and I felt like he was the kind of player you want to build around, especially with a Halliburton, a guy who can rim run, a guy who can play defense on the perimeter and also down low. And I was really excited about this guy. And then there was all this weird cap bullshit that made it seem like we couldn't hold on to him. So we were only able to offer him an extension, but everybody else could offer him an unrestricted number. And so we, as a podcast, had just decided he was gone. Somebody was going to pay him $10 million a year to walk away, and all we could offer him was $4.5 million. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if the market cooled or if he just really wants to be with the Pacers and be a part of what we're doing. But he signed a 2-year deal for $9.5 million, which is basically the max that we could give him. And he is now your Pacer. Jalen Smith, I think you're starting 4 going forward. I am so thrilled by this. I thought we had uncovered a gem that somebody else was going to reap, and we get to keep him for another 2 years. So this was the highlight. Well, okay, moving Brogdon for not having to move a draft pick for Brogdon, along with Jalen Smith, has made this feel like a really good offseason for me.
Yeah, combined with the draft pick and whatnot. Yeah, I don't know that he's going to start. I mean, I think there's still some roster shaping to be done. I think that he and Miles Turner, should he still be on the roster, do pretty redundant things. I don't know if they can both be on the floor at the same time. But
Well, what do you mean? He started last year. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, last year we had like insane. Miles Turner wasn't playing,
Right.
and so he was starting at center. Like,
So, based on our current roster, would you start Miles Turner and Isaiah Jackson as your front court? Or would you start a Jalen Smith and a Miles Turner and have Isaiah Jackson coming off the bench?
I would do the former. I don't know, Harper. What do you think?
And you might have to start O'Shea Brissett. I mean, it's good that you've
Yeah.
got it's good that you've got some competition at the position. in some sense. It'd be nice to just have a guy that you know is your starter because he's so darn good. But I don't think that we have that. I think that it's an open spot going in. I think Jalen would be able to compete for it.
No, you bring up a good point, Harper, because I like the idea of playing. I want Halliburton and Mathurin, he's French, to get the most. I want them to have the most time on the floor together of any duo of Pacers this season.
And Duarte's got to be out
I
there.
think, I know, and so I think you start
your
Duarte
core, right?
at the 3, and then Brissett at the 4. That's what I would do, and play super fast.
Yep.
Okay, well, what I would say is if you're going to go as young as you could possibly go, then you start Halliburton, Mathurin, Duarte, Jalen Smith, and Isaiah.
But I'm not. I'm not saying that I want to go as young as possible. I'm saying that I am really excited about the combination in the backcourt of Halliburton and Mathurin, and so I want to get those guys just clicking.
I think
possible.
I think Hield is going to be your starter next season.
Hot take.
Right. I forgot we had Hield.
Yeah, Buddy Hield is going to be your starter, and they have chemistry already. And like you're going to bring Mathurin off the bench at your backup 2-3.
I mean, that's certainly something that we could do. I will say that Terry Taylor is also 22 and O'Shea Brissett's 23. So even if you do want to go youth, it's not like these guys aren't plenty young.
No, I agree. We did just re-sign O'Shea Brissett, which is great. I'm big on that. We also gave a qualifier offer to Terry Taylor. Like, these guys are going to be around. I love these guys. They're all young. But
I would bring Hield off the bench if it were me. I mean, you got a guy who's number 6 in the draft, and you believe in him. I mean, I just think you throw him and Duarte out there along with Halliburton and let these kids learn. I mean, we're not winning a championship this year. It's not in the cards for us. You know, if we get halfway through the season and, you know, we feel like we're in a position where starting Buddy Hield gets us, you know, a better playoff position, God bless. But until I believe that, I start Mathurin.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd be okay with if Hield starts for the first 20 games or something like that, and we slowly switch to, you know, while Mathurin gets up to speed.
Yeah.
But the more that I learn about this kid, the more excited I am to have him on the floor.
He is a bulldog.
And right, exactly.
Can we mention to the fans that are listening right now that he has told the media that he's ready to best LeBron James?
Yeah.
At
basketball.
I mean, he knows LeBron's like 38, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to pick on a 40-year-old, sure, but he's like, yeah, everybody says he's the greatest ever. I think I'm better than him, is basically what he said.
Yeah. I mean,
so I love the confidence.
I was kind of my initial reaction was don't poke the bear, but then I was like, if the bear's rolling downhill, you can maybe poke him.
Don't poke the bear.
No, but I like the confidence too. Like I would expect no less from a top 10 draft pick. I bet every player that got picked in the top 10 is thinking the same thing.
Yeah, wasn't it Chet Holmgren that said he was the best player in the NBA?
Yeah.
So cool.
I mean, he said, I want to see how great he is. I don't think anybody's better than me. He's going to have to show me that he's better than me. And, like, that confidence is fine. To just say you're better than LeBron in his prime is probably just delusional for almost anybody on the planet.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Except
including Jabari Smith, for sure, and Paolo Bench, all those guys.
Right.
But, you know, anytime you're going into a one-on-one matchup, yeah, you got to believe you can win that matchup. Of course, that's your job.
So the other thing is...
that's what we loved about, Lance Stevenson, right? It was like, whatever,
right.
I got this.
So to get back to the idea of whatever the lineup's going to be, obviously there's a long time between now and the beginning of the season, and there's also, I don't think the Pacers are done making moves. I mean, as you mentioned, Miles Turner is in trade talks all of the time, and I imagine that Buddy Hield is as well, right? Like, I'm sure there are teams that would like a quote-unquote sharpshooter like Buddy Hield.
He hit the most threes in the NBA last season. I mean, not quote-unquote
sure,
sharpshooter.
yeah, but he threw up the most as well. Like, you know.
Fair enough. I mean, I think what I would say is that I thought Halliburton and Hield had a lot more chemistry than I expected, and I thought Buddy Hield played better for us than I thought he would last season. And I'm not in a huge hurry to get rid of him. I understand we're trying to develop young people, but like, I don't know if developing young people just means throwing them into the starting lineup.
No, yeah, I see that point, and I think you have to have some sort of balance between veterans and youth on your roster. I mean, somebody has to teach these kids how to play and how to be NBA players and manage their business outside the court and whatnot. And so having a guy like Hield around is useful in that aspect, but I don't want him stealing too many minutes from my boy.
No,
Vinny,
I know.
You know,
well, we've also seen situations where you completely tank and everybody, the oldest guy on your team is 25.
Sure.
In like a, the Sixers or whatever, and like nobody gets better. They just don't, because
Right.
it's not a positive environment to be in. I think adults on the floor and in the locker room are important. I'm not saying that Buddy Hield is that, but I think also slowly putting people into rotations can be useful.
I think
As long as you're managing.
part of our vision here, though, was getting a bunch of coachable guys so that we could turn Rick Carlisle loose on their development, right?
Yep.
And so
Okay.
he is the adult in the room, right? He is going
Okay.
to make sure that it's a positive environment. Obviously, leadership has to come, from players on the team. I think we've got at least what looks like from the outside, a good start in Halliburton. So, obviously there's a place for leadership in the locker room. But organizationally, I think Rick Carlisle understands that, how to milk it and how to develop it. So, I'm not concerned about a bunch of 25-year-olds tanking this year, regardless of who's a starter out there. And Buddy Hield's, career path doesn't exactly, as great as he played last year, doesn't inspire the most confidence of any player in the NBA. It's been a little up and down for him over the years.
Sure, and I think that's fair. I think, what I think a lot of fans, at least on the internet, and I think even the buzz is that it's pretty easy to combine a Buddy Hield contract with a Miles Turner contract and get up to $40 million. And suddenly you're talking about a big swing at something, right? And I think that's what put Hield and Turner in all of these conversations. Why they're tradable, because we would love to have, a big time prospect coming back to us. But I think that's a little bit unrealistic.
Oh, you don't
I
think we're getting
ultimately-
Durant for Hield and Turner?
I mean, Hield and Turner and every draft pick we ever have for the next 30 years.
I mean, if they would take that, we would give it to them.
I know.
Because he's on a 4-year deal.
but-
He can't go anywhere.
But if we could do that, we would have already done it. The entire free agency has been frozen by this idea that Durant is on the move, right? Like, there's a lot of things that have not happened because Durant and Irving are out there. And so, I think hope of all hopes, the Pacers are one of the franchises that have a ton of disposable cap space right now. In fact, fun fact, after all of the trades we've made, we're nearly $15 million underneath the cap floor.
Whoa, cool. And I think there's a clause that if they don't hit the floor, the Undebeatables get the delta. Is that right?
No,
That sounds right to
they
me.
pay all.
We
the-
didn't get that in
no,
our contract?
No. They pay all the
Yeah.
players on the team, the leftover, not us.
I knew I shouldn't have let Colson negotiate that.
I thought when they said the players, I just took
Right.
it
Well,
as
you
we're-
thought they included us.
Players
are
with-
players.
Sorry,
Players with a Z.
I did
Yeah.
negotiate that. That was
Yeah,
my
exactly.
fault. Yeah. So I assume we're gonna give that to Lance Stevenson. Look, okay. There's guys at every level as long as you bring Lance Stevenson back. We've got guys at every spot, and let them fight for their spots and see who's gonna be good. Let's. We're gonna be not a good team next year. It's not gonna happen.
No, but we're gonna be fun.
Oh, we're going to be fun as hell.
I think. At least.
I agree.
I mean,
Okay.
might be pretty good too.
Yeah, we're gonna be. I envision us as one of those frisky teams that people hate to play, and that surprises some of the good teams, and maybe is, if not a playoff spoiler, then like if not a play-in contender, a playoff spoiler down the stretch.
So you got us at like what, 37 wins right now?
I don't know. I haven't done all the math yet, but I think that there is potential for this team to be really intriguing. Mm-hmm. I think the 25 wins from last year is like a misleadingly low floor for this team.
I agree.
I think that we lost a bunch of games down the stretch because we didn't have dudes in the lineup / on purpose. Yeah. So like, I mean, we lost our last 10 games, and like, I think the floor is more like low 30s, yeah. Right? And then, if things break right, then we're mid to high 30s.
Yeah, I think probably at first blush, sort of 32, 37, 42, mid, low, high, or low, mid, high, somewhere in there.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And this is before we make the Durant trade.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, so let's take a break now, and then we'll get into all this Durant nonsense and other things going on around the NBA. It's yeah, who knows what's going on, but yeah, let's take a break, and we'll get back and get into it.
Risk being seen in all of your glory.
Now no matter the situation, no matter the shit I'm placed in, I still chase my star in the sky, there's no debating. Intertwined with hello, meet me, I'm mellow. A fellow that respects the thoughts wrapped in your pillows, the dreams on your inner side, fire that's kindled, I just wanna nurture that feeling when the speaker cries, lose yourself over it, close your eyes or mold to it, make a duplicate, share it with yourself, see the scope of it, and let the love flow, and share with unknowns, build it up, share it with me, the door to your soul, and I promise that I won't judge, be little or think that I know much if I don't know much. I just want to give myself and give it all. Live it up my best till my final curtain calls. We see our destiny. This is the flesh in me. Love is the master key. Under this mask, it's me. I want to create with you, even if it's just today. 'Cause I want to relate with you and see just how you make your way. I want to grow with me. Do you want to grow with you? I'm here for you to see. Will you let me see you too? And now unmasking myself is a frightening thought, and the love in solitude is a blessing and not. And do you need to feel love to show it? That doesn't seem right. We're just looking for connections in life, and it's ironic that you got to love yourself first. I'm just a man when you break it down, full of faults with a strong will, and I make mistakes, tend to be cold, but I'm working on it. And if I see beauty, I'm perching on it. I'm trying to see the world through my own eyes, build with the people and live my own life. It's tough to live openly when you've been where I've been. I just want to let go and have faith until then. I'll race with you, face to face with you, hold hands in thought, I'm made to fade with you, right into the background, living here for me. And if you've got the time, you're invited to come.
All right, we're back from the break. It was a good one. Jill tied for the win in Balderdash.
Shout out.
Hey, nice.
My stat of the week. Joey's not here. Shout out Joey and Catherine and Waylon. Hope you guys are doing well with the COVID situation there.
HIPAA.
We were thinking about you. Oh, whoops. Sorry. But Colson, you are stepping in for Joey and his steed with a stat of the week, I heard.
Joey, stat of the week.
I am. So I thought a lot about this. I felt like I needed to do something for Joey, and honestly, there were numbers that struck me. The number of states that no longer allow abortions. There are over 300 mass shootings in this country this year. There's a lot of numbers out there that are terrible. But the number I wanted to give my Pacer Nation right now is Mach 10. It is the number that Maverick in the new Top Gun exceeds because he has a need for speed. It's not a spoiler alert. I think he does it in the opening moments of the movie.
Somebody give him a ramjet?
This made me feel better about America and about movie in general.
I like movie.
I like movie. It is a real stakes, real relationships. Movies like they don't make anymore. Shout out to Top Gun Maverick. Go see it in the theater. Mach 10 is my stat of the week.
All right. Mach 10. That's 10 times the speed of sound.
Yeah.
So approximately, I don't know, we're going to say 665.
6,000 miles an hour?
6,500 miles an hour, I think. I think it's about 600 miles an hour at sea level. I'm assuming this had to be like a ramjet, though. So this is in the upper atmosphere. So the speed of sound is probably considerably lower at that altitude. So
go see the movie and find out.
So it should have a big asterisk behind it. It should be like Mach 10 asterisk or whatever.
Yeah, asterisk. Go see the movie. That's my.
Okay, gotcha.
Seriously, there's a lot of stuff going on in the universe, and it's been a tough time to watch the news of late. So stay safe, Pacer Nation, and just listen to more basketball because it's way more fun than the rest of the universe.
That's right. All right. We spent a lot of time discussing the Pacers and some of our roster moves in the offseason. Let's talk about the wider NBA here. Colson is our expert on this. He has spent the most time deep diving free agent signings in preparation for Where That Player At. I'm going to go ahead and plug that episode. That's going to happen.
That's going to happen in a couple months.
4 months or 3 months?
It's like 2 or 3 months, yeah.
Okay. What do you think, Colson, so far has been the best offseason maneuver by another team?
Well, so what I would say is that the most dramatic thing for this offseason is that Kevin Durant came out and said that he wanted to be traded.
Okay.
And that has dramatically changed this free agent signing. People are holding onto their assets. They are all ridiculously believing that they might have a chance at Kevin Durant, including your Indiana Pacers. There are a lot of things that aren't happening because that exists and is a shadow over everything. However, a couple big things have happened, and I would like to mention at least one of them, which is the Minnesota Timberwolves decided to mortgage their entire future, the next 5 years of draft picks, on getting Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz. And I think the pairing of Gobert and Towns up front as their as their front court, especially as Minnesota really struggled with defense last year, and they had a nice little run in the playoffs. Their main problem was defense. Anthony Edwards is their young guard who's 21 and looks like the next best thing. Also really good in the movie Hustle. If you guys want to go see that movie, he's fantastic as the villain in that. So shout out. I think they have something going here, but I don't know how it works on paper. And I'm concerned that they gave up not only a lot of rotation players, but 5 years of draft picks for Rudy Gobert. Basically, they're saying we're all in and we're going to be great and we're going to be contending for a title based on this trade. And I'm not sure that that's the case. You guys have thoughts?
So, for the sake of clarity here, they actually gave up, in a sense, 6 draft picks. So, because there's a limit on what you can do, they traded away their first round, 23 and 25, a pick swap for 26, their first rounder in 27, and a first round protected in 29. So, that's a lot, clearly. They also gave up Malik Beasley, Patty Beverly, and 3 guys you've never heard of, Balmaro, Kessler, and Vanderbilt. So, yeah, definitely a lot. It seems like a pretty Twin Towers sort of experiment to me.
In a league that's going small.
Yeah. And
I mean, the most recent championship team had to have a little bit of size with Kyle Looney. But like outside of that, like Draymond Green is like 6'5" and playing center. Like, I mean, is size gonna win you a championship at this point?
I mean, as a Pacer fan, 2 7-footers on the floor didn't work out great for us. Obviously, these 2 guys are better versions.
Ouch, that hurts.
Are better versions of what we had. But just in a from a purely strategic fit standpoint, I mean, they're going to have to go out and play, one would think, a sort of, plotting style of basketball, right? To keep these guys from getting caught out in full court. We know the Timberwolves can score, so I understand how they're trying to add defense. Just not 100% convinced that they needed that defense at 5.
So the thing that this is going to do for Minnesota is it's going to make them a solid regular season team. And I think that for a fan base that has been struggling to get to the playoffs for the last decade, basically, they've made it twice now in the past decade plus or something like that. Like, maybe this puts them in a position to be more consistently solid and a playoff team.
45 to 50 win team.
Yeah, and then they can build around that in the next couple years or something like that. Or maybe Anthony Edwards turns into, an all-star / all-NBA type level guy. I think that's what they're banking on.
Yeah,
right?
100% there.
As far as the Twin Towers thing goes, I think the geometry works weirdly slightly better than what the Pacers double Twin Towers did, right? So Karl Anthony Towns is like sort of the outside guy, but not so good at defense, an offensive prowess guy. And Rudy Gobert is more of the shot blocker, get offensive rebounds guy. Whereas for the Pacers, Miles Turner preferred to work away from the basket. And so the geometry was like kind of switched, I guess,
100%,
on each end of the floor. And so maybe that works a little bit better. I do still think once you get to playoff time, like Gobert is going to get played off the floor.
They're just
like that's just how it is in the NBA now. Yeah, exactly.
Or they're just going to abuse Karl Anthony Towns, right? And you're going to be in the same position that you were trying to outscore other teams, right? It's just teams are going to play small ball, and I mean every coach in the league has seen enough Steve Kerr footage now to know what small ball can look like. It's an open secret that. You can play it effectively. And, the teams that you're absolutely right, Jason, the teams that are in the playoffs are there for a reason. It's because they have the personnel to, take advantage of defenses. And in this day and age, almost all of them can shoot.
Yep. For sure.
So your theory is they gave up 5 or 6 first round draft picks to become a more consistent regular season team and then just pray.
I mean, far be it for me to get into the minds of the general managers of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't know what their vision is, but in my opinion, that's what this gets them. Yeah. Like, obviously, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do this if they didn't think it put them on grounds to go deep into the playoffs, if not compete for a title, right? Like, I think that's delusional of them.
I think they're better than they were yesterday.
But yeah, I think it makes them better. Right. Exactly.
But 5 draft picks? God, that's a lot.
Well, if the market rate before that was 4 first-round draft picks for DeJounte Murray, then you have to go over that to get a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, right? Like,
who we haven't mentioned has gone to
Hotlanta
to be the running mate with Trae Young.
What did you guys think of this move? You like this move?
I like it, sure. I don't know. Big defensive guard who can also get his own shot next to Trae Young who can shoot from 40 feet. I think it's a solid backcourt.
I don't think it makes sense to me.
Really?
No. I think that DeJounte Murray is super good with the ball in his hands and can create and can't shoot from the outside. Trae Young needs the ball in his hands all the time.
No,
can
I don't
shoot
think he
from the outside.
needs the ball in his hand all the time. I think that's the point.
I think he does.
He's got to become a Steph Curry to maximize his
Oh,
ability.
well, that's very easy to do because we've seen a lot of Steph Currys in this
I'm
league.
saying he could shoot from 40. So like, make yourself better off the ball. And I think Murray helps him do that. Is my only argument.
I mean, I will just split the difference here and just say you're both right. I mean, it's definitely a gamble in that sense because you're creating a backcourt situation that may or may not work. And you can see from previous years of this team that, they were already struggling to keep John Collins and Trae on the same team. And now you're asking Trae to change a little bit as well. And that may or may not go great. We'll see. If they can pull it off, I think it would be, it could be a real coup. But I agree, you're right. They're going to need him to play a lot more off the ball in order to keep Murray effective. They additionally also picked up A.J. Griffin in the draft, I think at 14, which was a steal for them. So, I mean, they got better. They did lose Kevin Huerter for a future draft pick, which, I don't think they wanted to do. But it is what it is. I think that they're better. I think it's risky, and I worry about, the ability of, Nate McMillan to get everybody into the right spot and bought into the program.
Okay.
Interesting. You don't think that Nate McMillan can toy with the offensive pieces to get the maximal benefit out of them?
Hot take.
Also, John Collins is still on the trade market. He's still on his way out the door potentially, which is rough for them because John Collins is a very talented young player. So we'll see what.
Yeah, and I don't understand that either. Like, I feel like he's a solid contributor for them. I mean, in a sense, I feel like this is a bit of an overreaction to their first round playoff exit this year. They were doing what NBA teams say they always want to do, is get a young core and let them develop together, learn how to win in the playoffs, and then go on. And so they had a great run. They had they overachieved 2 years ago and made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then they underachieved this past year. And then their response is to massively reshape their roster. And it may be for the good. I mean, I have no idea, but I feel like Herter made good contributions. Collins is a solid player that's getting better. He was hurt in their playoff run. Like, Trae Young is learning how to be a superstar. He's like, in his third or fourth year in the league or something like that? Dude is still young and figuring out how to do it. Like, give him a couple more chances to take some lumps.
I mean, my read as not a Hawks fan is that the reason that Collins is on the trade block is because Collin and Young don't get along well. And Collins doesn't like the ball dominant guardship of Trae Young, right? So it feels like they're trying to peg hole Young out of that, bring in a different point guard so they can keep everybody happy. But the problem is, in my mind at least,
the damage has been done.
Well, I mean, even if you can keep Collins, right? I mean, moving a superstar, a guy who's doing great, into a different role it's a risky proposition, especially if you can't keep John Collins and make him happy in that sense, right? I mean, if Trae Young is a special talent, and so just asking him to change his game is a big lift for any guy. He's 23, but he's been playing, 18 years the same way, probably,
Yeah.
I don't know. Risky business.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the other thing is that you're the Atlanta Hawks. It's not like you're the Lakers or the Celtics or even the Knicks, whose fan base is just going to go up in arms if you don't make massive moves to make deep runs in the playoffs. Like, their fan base has been elated watching this team over the last 4 or 5 years or whatever, right? Like, keep building on that. Like, just in my opinion, and I could be completely wrong, and they're a 55 win ball team next year and playing for the title, but I don't necessarily see that as the case.
That would be over the Vegas line, 55 wins.
Okay.
Well, we'll find out when we do our preseason predictions in like
things will change
4
between
months.
now and then. Dude, there's still things. Harper, did you have a favorite move of the offseason? Can I ask you? Let me phrase it a different way. Is Anthony Simons worth $100 million over 4 years?
I like Anthony Simons. I do. I think he's good. It seems like a lot of money. I will say.
Seems like a lot of money.
I will say that, they're a relatively small market team still. And, they got to spend that money, and they really can't draw free agents, the way that, obviously any of the California teams can, or Miami, or even Texas. The Blazers also managed to re-sign Nurkic, which is good news for them. I
had a much more reasonable contract.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Anthony Simons at that price is a big question mark. But, just like with their, sort of all-in draft pick on Shaedon Sharp, I think that this is a move that they, felt like they had to make. Whether or not it's going to be enough to keep Dame is jury is out on that.
Sure, yeah. It's one of these really interesting situations, which is becoming more common in the NBA, which is we're going to go ahead and pay this guy on the probability that he's going to reach the value of this contract, right? As opposed to, we're sort of compensating for him overperforming in the previous contract or whatever, right? Which has been the story of the NBA for decades, basically. So it's kind of interesting. I like him as a player. That number came across my screen, and I was like, whoa, what? Wow, that is a lot of money. But
in fairness, the floor this year is 120 or 112 million or something. So
yeah, you got to spend the money.
You got to spend it somewhere, and they're not bringing in James Harden. I don't think so.
But so they're paying between Lillard, Jeremy Grant, and Anthony Simons. That's like $75 million right there, or something like that.
Sure.
More, probably. Yeah. That's crazy.
Speaking of
numbers are just
aspirational numbers, Zion Williams.
Sure. Yeah.
Played 85 games and got the max rookie extension.
85 games over the course of 3 seasons.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean one season. There's only 82 games in a season.
Over the course of his
3
career.
Seasons. Career. I mean, if I'm Zion, I take that, of course. And I think if you're New Orleans, you kind of have to give it to him.
What are you going to do?
All of this seems insane.
I would be signing the contract before they put the pen in my hand. I would be like pricking my finger.
100%. I would wheel myself in a wheelchair to avoid injury.
He becomes Bubble Boy. Mm-hmm. He just walks around.
Yep.
Slide contract through the bubble.
It's like one of the clauses of his contract is he has to move around in a hamster wheel for the rest of his life. Oh man.
Well, I know who you're excited about, Jason. 5 years and $250 million.
My boy B. Bill, you got to do it. You got to lock down. If you can pay a guy $250 million for him to demand a trade out of your city,
sorry.
you got to do it.
Okay. I'm sorry. To be a top 40 player and then demand a trade.
Top 37.
Okay, sorry.
The Wizards, they did this.
They did to themselves.
They're so frustrating. Well, and they made the same mistake with Otto Porter. You remember Otto Porter Jr., who, by the way, showed himself quite well in the finals.
Yeah.
Good for him. But they were in this situation where they're like, we have to pay him.
I think he's in Toronto now, just by the by.
Oh, right. They were like, we have to pay him $75 million, like, or else we're going to lose him. Like, I just don't understand the logic. Like, sign-in trades don't exist in your world. Who knows?
Feels like
so now, what does Beal make a year now? Like $48 million a year?
I mean, right, over the course of it.
Over the life of the contract, it'll average out to 50.
It's average that.
Yeah.
That makes him super easy to trade.
I mean, for Durant,
Well, they could trade back for Russell Westbrook. Yeah, maybe that's what their move was. They wanted to get Durant.
in the 5th year of his deal, he will make $57 million.
Oh my God. And literally, he's not a top 25 player in the NBA.
Not yet. Maybe they're thinking about this like Anthony Simons. Maybe
Sure. Because
fulfill
how old is he?
Potential of that contract.
'Cause-
He's still relative. I mean, he's not like
okay,
ancient.
we've talked a lot about this as during the 10 years whatever that we've been doing this pod that the in general the peak of a player is between 26 and 32. But as players have gotten younger, you could move it down to about 24, 25. But after about 32, they get a little too old. So their peak could be 8 years. That's amazing. Where he's got to be on the far end of that. He's got to be 29 or
He's
30,
29.
right?
So these are the peak years. I mean,
Okay.
this is it for him.
But he's got 2 years after those peak years, and he's going to be 57.
I mean, he's not Allen Iverson. I mean, the guy spends a lot of time with the ball in his hands, but he's also an excellent shooter. He spends time on the perimeter. He's not getting beat to hell. Like, he's going to play into his 30s and be fine.
Yeah, he's gonna have a long career of shooting.
Okay.
He's going to be.
Talk me into the Bradley Beal.
I think they overpaid him
Gave him
by
the whole-
$40 million, and I don't know who they're
It
competing
seems
against.
like they could
There's
have.
no one.
It seems like they could have signed him to an extension a couple years ago at a much more reasonable contract.
Yeah, and who are they competing against? I agree with that. Who's going to pay him this? Nobody.
Well, the Wizards are the only team that can pay him this.
This is
Right,
the
of
supermax.
course. Right.
Right,
But
but they
nobody
and
was
so
going to
they're
pay him $40 million.
yeah. I
what are
mean,
they
I guess so.
gonna
It's
do?
it's a behavioral economics game. They had to figure out the number because he could walk and sign a 4-year deal for like what 190 or 200 or something like that, and so you got to go above that to some degree
By 25%.
to keep him there. But I don't think you got to go to the full
75%.
max. Like it seems insane. But
I mean, well, who are they going to spend that money on? Who wants to go play in DC?
nobody apparently.
And that's the gamble. Is they're just like, he's the guy that we can, put the butts in the seats. And if it puts butts in seats, ultimately it's worth it. The win and loss record, in the short term means less than the gate.
I mean, I will say that what puts butts in seats in Washington D.C. is when the Lakers or the Nets or the Knicks or Celtics, when other teams come to
Couldn't
town.
they go for Durant at this point?
They could, sure,
Man,
yeah, and I'm
who
sure
do they
that
have?
they are talking themselves into this delusional idea that they could because he's from the DMV. But yeah, I don't know that they have the assets
Well, okay.
other than Beal
But you can't
to do it.
Can you trade?
You
Beal?
can't trade him
you
right
And I
can't
don't
trade
think they
him.
can
Not
trade
yet.
him.
They'd have to
anyway.
hold Durant for
They have to wait. Yeah,
4 months or
Till the-
something, right?
yeah, till the trade deadline, I
Yeah.
think.
Right.
Well, okay. So here's another interesting thing. So Durant asked to go to Phoenix or Miami. Basically, he picked the 1 seeds of both conferences.
Interesting.
Shockingly, yeah, he wants to go be on a winner. That would be a huge issue for lots of teams because he makes a lot of money. The teams that actually could trade for him are teams like Detroit and the Indiana Pacers.
Couldn't Arizona side and trade Ayton?
Yep.
They could. It's doable. Brooklyn has said is we're going to wait for the very max possible deal we can get. And if they're now looking at 5 draft picks for Gobert, like what are we looking at? 7 first-round draft picks? 10 first-round draft picks?
I don't know. What are they going to say? We're going to trade him for less than the max? I mean, the problem is that there's just not perfect knowledge in the NBA. Like, all these GMs may think they know everything, but of course they don't. They don't know when the highest offer is going to come, right? They don't know the answer to that question, either in terms of valuation right now, and certainly not in terms of valuation in the future, right? So, I mean, it's Sean Marks' job to say, yeah, I know exactly what it's going to be, right? But he may not even know it in the final analysis when he sees it, and maybe the highest thing is not what someone wants to give for Durant, a guy who's in the middle of demanding a trade from a place that, he said he wanted to go build a championship. I mean,
right. And he's also in his 16th year. Like, it's not like he's a spring chicken anymore.
True. I'm gonna say we called this when he signed with the Nets and hitched his star to Kyrie Irving's wagon.
Yep. We can go back and listen to the tape, but I'm pretty sure we all called this. Yeah, you're right.
Yep. Let's wrap this up in a nice little bow and go back to Pacers land. So the Nets, in order to solidify some Kevin Durant insurance, went ahead and signed T.J. Warren.
What?
Yeah.
And
T.J. Warren was
Edmund Sumner.
No, he's my solution.
And Ed Sumner. They're just raiding the former Pacers roster.
Those two guys were the guys that were going to solidify my roster going forward.
I noticed that you mentioned them a bunch of times in the first half.
I did. I think I did.
We must have cut that out in the edit or something. Huh?
It's like Sumner and Warren are going to make this thing be a 50-win team. They're both with Brooklyn now, huh?
Yep. How do you feel about that?
XU?
All right, that's good. What was the TJ Warren deal? He signed the mid-level?
I actually got no numbers on that. I looked into it. Okay. I couldn't find a number.
2-year deal, prospectively, or something. It's like,
yeah, I actually heard a 1 year.
Or maybe it's a 1 year. Yeah,
it's a 1 and
it might be a 1 and 1.
It's a 1 and 1. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but here's the deal, because they don't know, because he's injured, right? So like they don't know what he's going to be. You can't take
it's
a
a
risk.
Team option for the second.
Oh yeah, team option. But
you would hope.
But here's the deal. T.J. Warren is the perfect fit on our roster right now. I'm sorry he's gone. As long as he's healthy.
Because we need a guy who doesn't want to play basketball.
No, I want a guy that is really good at basketball, plays defense, and can hit shots, and is tall.
I'll take your word for it. That was so long ago, I can't even remember if he was good or not.
Yeah, right.
He used to score 31 points a game in the bubble.
Sure.
He's been playing NBA basketball for
2 years.
Nearly 2 years. So who knows if that's true.
He's going to go be great as the Durant replacement for Brooklyn, and we're going to have Durant and win a title. It'll be awesome.
I think it's going to be fantastic when Durant and Harden get traded for each other. Harden's going to sign and trade with the 76ers. They're going to trade him up to Brooklyn.
All right. Any last thoughts on free agent moves or any major things we missed that we need to discuss? Harper's
Bulls re-signed Zach LaVine to a parsimonious 5-year, $215 million contract. Shout out, Chairman.
Got him cheap.
Shout out, Chairman.
Got him cheap.
Better than Beal.
That's right.
Yeah. I would say he's way more clutch than Beal, too.
Shots
He's had
fired.
more moments. I mean,
I don't know. I feel like Beal's had a lot of moments to miss.
Sure.
you take that several ways. I like it.
Yeah. They aren't that far apart in the rankings.
No, they're both 2A sort of players, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So let me just say before we close out, this is kind of our off season now as a podcast. Is there, if another major trade happens or another major signing happens, we'll get back on. But like, as the team as it stands. We kind of went through the lineup and what it would look like. How do we feel? I mean, do you feel like you're fighting for a playoff spot, or do you feel like you're going for the the number 1 pick next year?
It's a development year for sure. I think what we said earlier in the first half was 32, 37, 42 as the spread. That feels about right to me. We'll see what Vegas has to say about it. But I'm not going to be at all disappointed if this team doesn't win, 42 games next year and get above 500. That's not the most important thing that needs to happen. The most important thing that needs to happen is rebuilding a locker room that works, a culture of winning, and the talent on the floor.
Yeah, I'd like to see us get on that Memphis Grizzlies trajectory.
Absolutely. Well put.
As quickly as
Well
possible,
put.
right? Like,
Do we need to bring in some veterans to make that happen? Like, even if they don't play?
No.
Like, do we need the Al Jeffersons? Do we need... I mean, I'm just worried about being, the Sacramento Kings with no leadership for so many years, or the 76ers for no leadership for so many years.
I think that if we retain Miles Turner and
T.J.
McConnell as like veteran presences in the locker room, like I'm fine with
And
that.
Rick Carlisle.
Okay.
If Heald is around, and I also have a lot of faith in Rick Carlisle and beyond that, his coaching staff,
absolutely.
like Lloyd Pierce and I'm blanking on everybody else's name, but all those people I have confidence in player as far as player development. I feel like they have a plan. I feel like they are going to have a plan and like have a developmental milestones that they want each and every player to reach as the season goes along, as the summer goes along. And I feel like it's not going to be a chaotic situation. It's not going to be a Nate Bjorkgren situation. So
you're saying that the staff did not draft Nembhard because they thought it was a funny dick joke like Harper did?
I'm not ruling that out. I think that they did it for the Canadianness. And so I forgot to mention with the trade with Boston, we now have 4 Canadians on our team. So close to 25% of our roster is Canadian now. And that's just awesome. Like the amount of excellent pancake breakfasts with like super good maple syrup they're going to happen in the Pacers locker room. Like there's no way that morale doesn't improve in a situation like that.
And keep talking, Colson, I'll kicking the Neems, eh?
I say there's too much poutine and
Too much
I don't know. I'm being sluggish at halftime.
You'll be sluggish at halftime.
What? I do love the moose head.
Yeah,
both the beer and the
green
I was
bottle
gonna
beer.
say, thought Neymar was a bad joke.
All right. Colson, we got upcoming Pacers action, right?
Oh my God, this is so exciting! I'm okay. It is summer league time, and your Indiana Pacers are going to be playing on national television.
Whoa!
So we need to check this out. July 8th, we're playing the Hornets at 6 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. July 10th versus the Kings at 3 p.m. on ESPN. NBA TV on July 12th against the Pistons at 9. And ESPN... Sorry.
On the Ocho?
It says ESPN 23 right here. I don't think that's right. But it made me laugh.
That might be right.
July
I don't know.
15th, we're playing the Wizards. So good luck on that, Jason. At 9 o'clock
ESPN
Eastern.
23 is just Bradley Beal's mom's cell phone stream.
You got to like her Twitter or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do want to mention the guys that are going to be on a summer league, and this is actually really worth watching. Isaiah Jackson, potentially our starting small forward or power forward. Benedict Mathurin, our number 1 draft pick. Chris Duarte, Dwayne Washington Jr., Terry Taylor, the Birdhouse, and also Kendall Brown, who we drafted, and Andrew Nembhard, who we also make fun of his name. So these are a lot of guys that you're going to be seeing for your Pacers playing. Might as well get a little early summer league action on them on ESPN 23.
Tune into the Ocho. All right. Well, thank you guys for working through this Brogdon trade with me. I feel like we're in a good direction here. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders with having Brogdon not on the roster anymore. And thank you, fans, for listening. As Colson mentioned, we're going into the off season here, so we will do some podcasts, but they will be quite intermittent. But we might drop some Undegoogleables. If you're not subscribed to the Undegoogleables, subscribe to that feed.
Happens
and you
every
can hear our
Saturday
voices,
morning.
once a week at least. In the meantime, you can find us on Twitter. We are at Undebeatables. We have a Facebook page / the Undebeatables. There's a contact form on our website. You can also, which is theundebeatables.com. Sorry. You can also email us. Shout out at theundebeatables.com. If you go back to our website, there's a T-shirt, the OG version of the T-shirt that you can buy.
You're running out of time on the OG.
But you're running out of time because we're going to print new ones for the 22-23 Pacers season. A new era, the Halliburton Mathurin
I'm starting
era.
to think that we just need to sign and frame the OG one. I think that's ours now.
The last one that we're waiting for.
Yeah.
Exactly. The one that's been sitting on the bottom of Joey's
100%.
closet.
We will sign it, we'll frame it, and we'll save it for, way winner Ethan. one day.
Okay. It's definitely
That
a
is a
schmedium.
great idea.
It's definitely a schmedium.
That is a great idea.
Okay.
Done
so
and
actually,
done. Okay,
you know
no
what?
more T-shirts
Yeah,
available
exactly.
at the website.
Wait for 2 months before you
Wait
can have
another
more
month
t-shirts.
or so, and we will have more T-shirts.
But if you become a Patreon, we will get you a
We'll,
t-shirt.
we'll
in 2
allow the
months.
pre-orders.
That's right.
That's right. We accept dollars and Bitcoin.
For the architect, Donnie Walsh, and our once and always Hall of Fame coach, Bobby Sinclair. Turn out the light. The party over.
Wow, that was a nice walk down. I like that.
The long goodbye for TJ Warren. Super Pacer TJ Warren.
Sayonara, my friend.
You know what? I really liked him for the cash we gave him. Or the cash we gave Phoenix for him, I mean.
Exactly, yeah. Best cash considerations trade.
It's true. It's true. It's a little disappointing. It bought us no loyalty because we were willing to take a chance on him. But hey, that's capitalism, baby.
That's right. We still have no idea how much he got paid by the Brooklyn, but I assume that it's way less than we could have paid him. So I'm going to trust my franchise here and say,
Yeah.
they know something that Brooklyn doesn't.
Either
know.
that or we offered him $0.00.
We're like, hey, you know what? I've got some lint in my pocket.
We got a bag of chips from Boston. Do you want that?
Exactly. Yeah. Here's a dessert to be determined.